Hello, my name is Anna Cunningham and I'll be telling you what I've learned about both InDesign and Adobe Photoshop from the process of making my main media product. At the beginning of my course, I was very familiar with Adobe Photoshop as I'm into photography, so I use the software a considerable amount to edit photos. However, my InDesign skills were not as good as my knowledge on Photoshop. From lessons and tutorials, I learnt a large amount of how to use InDesign and how to make an effective music magazine. After I used the software, I got to grips with where everything was and how to use them. The progress for my InDesign skills has increased a huge amount, as before I was not aware of how to use the elements successfully and professionally. The lessons I learned by completing my preliminary exercise in InDesign was how to overlap the layers, stretching and cropping the image, placing the logo, adding shapes, changing the colour of the shapes and adding layout lines. The lesson I have also learnt is how to use shortcuts correctly. The keyboard shortcuts were useful to me as they are less time consuming and it will enable me to finish my product quicker. I feel that now I have completed my magazine, my InDesign skills have progressed and I will be able to use the software again confidently. From my main task, I learnt that brushing my model's hair before the photo shoot will allow the quick selection tool to crop easier. From Adobe Photoshop, I learnt how to make the image more magazine quality by editing the contrast and the shadows and highlights of the images. The advantages of InDesign are: I can now use InDesign confidently. I am able to create a professional piece of work using the technology. The layout lines enable me to keep my original plan as it has allowed me to make sure nothing was out of place. The disadvantages of InDesign are: it's quite complicated to use when I was first introduced to it. When attempting to make the image smaller on InDesign, the quality of the image wasn't as good as the quality as the original. Also, you can't edit the images as good as Photoshop can. And the editing of text on InDesign isn't as good as Photoshop's. The advantages of using Adobe Photoshop are: I was already familiar with the software, therefore it was easy for me to use. It is easy to edit images. It is easy to familiarise myself with the effects. The effects improve the overall quality of the photograph, and images can be altered to fix faults such as red eyes. The disadvantages of Photoshop are: I didn't learn a large amount as I was already familiar with it. It can be time consuming when editing a large amount of photographs.